Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of the United Club podcast. Today, we'll be reacting to Manchester United's dire 0-0 draw with Chelsea yesterday. And it is my privilege to introduce Darian to the podcast. He is a Chelsea fan who we've got on a one-off opportunity to talk to you about the game and what his thoughts were, and maybe have a bit of discussion between us as fans, and we'll try and see what we can muster up about yesterday's game. Anyway, Man United drew 0-0. It wasn't a great performance. Azan, I know you watched it and you weren't overly impressed. Neither was I. But what do you think about this result in the long term, and how do you feel like following the game?
It was just the most boring game I've ever seen. It's a bit of an overstatement, but definitely of the season. Especially this season, you go into games thinking 4-4, 3-3. We've seen mad games, but it's not a good result, as people like to say. Like Ollie, even after the game, says after PSG last time we went and lost a lot of games, but it's not the mentality that I'm thinking of is the best way to go forward here, is it?
No, and I feel like a win might have been crucial for us in trying to mount some sort of sustainable challenge this season. I tweeted out before the game, whoever wins today is in a really good position with regard to the rest of the season. And neither of us actually won. But having said that, if we do win our game in hand, we're only 3 points behind the league leaders. So maybe the result, Chelsea are a good team, as we know, and maybe a 0-0 isn't great. What about the Chelsea side of things? Daz, what do you think about the result?
I'll take it. It is a draw. Obviously, we would have liked to win, but 0-0 with the way our defence has been this season, last season, we all know it's been terrible. I'll take a 0-0. We were under the cosh for most of the second half, if not all of it. 0-0. I'm happy with it.
And I feel like Frank Lampard himself might have been going into that game thinking, you know what, clean sheet, 0-0 draw at Old Trafford. That's what I'm going for. That's what I'll take. And I don't think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer expected Chelsea to turn up to Old Trafford trying to park the bus and setting up so defensively with a 5 at the back. And I must say, Reece James was phenomenal for Chelsea yesterday. But yeah, I don't think that's what Solskjaer would have expected. Man United's team selection, what do you think, Azan, about the way that Solskjaer set up? I mean, we went with Daniel James, we went with Juan Mata, we went with the same team that beat Newcastle 4-1, but this is a totally different game. How did it work? Not great.
Really, really disappointing, I think. Like even Everest said that you have to start your best players, not the players that you think have earned their way into the team. And a quote from Ollie that he says is, it's easy to say who should be in the team, but it's even harder to say who should be taken out. I don't think it really is when you're starting McTominay, Dan James in a big game like that, when we have Pogba, Van der Beek on the bench. Even Cavani, I feel, should have started that game. But I feel like sometimes the things that Ollie says with regards to his team sheet is making more of an excuse to why he chose it rather than a justification.
I feel like Cavani came on, he instantly brought, he showed he nearly scored, but he showed that he just offers that natural goal scoring ability, which a lot of other players don't really have. I'm not sure even if you can say that Martial and Rashford are the natural goal scorers in the same sort of ilk as Cavani was at the top of his game, and maybe he still is. We don't know. We'll see how he adapts to the Premier League and how he fits in.
You could see he had something from his first touch there, couldn't you? That first touch nearly straight in. I don't think Martial or Rashford have the positional awareness yet to be able to do that. And I think Greenwood, that's something we've seen of him and he can develop into his game. But I think he'll bring something completely different to our front line. And in the end, it's a good thing that we brought him in.
When Cavani came on, were you scared that Cavani was going to score?
I saw your bench before the game and I thought, this is really strong. And I was sweating during the game and I saw Pogba and Cavani and I was like, oh no. They're gonna do something. They're such big game players, They're great players, and I was scared. And I think most Chelsea fans were, to be honest. And you saw that with his first touch where he nearly scored. I'm just thankful that was all he pretty much got in the whole game, because he definitely could have scored if he kept getting those chances.
One thing I'm really interested in is, from an opposition point of view, who are our most scary players when you look at the team sheet, if anyone, these days?
Obviously, Bruno. He always scores, he always gets an assist, he always does something, he's scary. But Rashford as well, I think his confidence is really high with obviously what he's doing on and off the pitch. And I did think he was going to score, but luckily Mendy saved us a couple of times from the shots. But, United are a big team, and any sort of players that they field, they're out there for a reason, and that they're good enough to change the game in their own way. But if I had to pick, probably Bruno and Rashford as the main two.
There must be a bit of a breath of fresh air seeing Eduard Mendy between the sticks instead of Kepa. It was a really good save on Rashford. I think Rashford should have scored when Mata slid him through. But what do you think about that save from Mendy?
All I'm saying is if Kepa was in goal, it would have gone in. And I'm glad that we've got Mendy, because Kepa's been our issue for the past 2 seasons, and he's been a big factor to our defence being so bad. And us.
But with him in, it's a lot more assuring to know that you've got a keeper that actually moves and makes saves, because Kepa definitely would not have made those saves yesterday.
No. Yeah. Anyway, another big talking point that arose from the game was Donny van der Beek. He wasn't involved at all. Didn't come off the bench. Sam, what do you think?
We've had assurances that he will start playing as the season goes on, but I feel like we all know he's a class player. That those 3 at Ajax, De Jong, De Ligt, and Van der Beek were their kind of prodigies, weren't they? And look at what the other 2 have done so young with constant game time. I think he just needs to start him, because he's done nothing to suggest when he's come on that he shouldn't be starting. If anything, it's quite the opposite, isn't it?
It is indeed. And you look at the class sort of touch that he clearly has. His incisive passing is very accurate. He can, he knows how to strike a football. He's showed that with his goal against Palace. I think that it is unfair on Donny that he isn't playing, and I've seen a lot of fans, a lot of people on my page, a lot of people messaging me saying, "I'm worried, mate. Is he going to play Van der Beek or not? Is he going to start him? How is he going to fit into the team? Is he? People are talking. Well, Evra said that he didn't think Man United needed Van der Beek and he didn't have anything against him, but we shouldn't have signed him. I don't agree with Evra, but it's because Fernandes is just one of the best players in the world. That he's not going to bench Fernandes for Van der Beek, and people question where does he fit into this team. I think he'll get game time, as you say. He will get game time eventually. It is only a matter of time, and hopefully some of that game time can come in our next game against RB Leipzig in the Champions League. Obviously, Chelsea have got Krasnodar. What do you think about that from a Chelsea perspective? Will you, after your scoreless draw of Sevilla as well, it must have been quite boring this week for you, but do you think you can do well in the league?
I warn you, don't say easy win on here, otherwise it won't happen.
Yeah, after last week.
No, it's a must-win game. With all respect to Krasnodar, we're better than them. Everyone knows that. If we don't win that game, then it's just a bit of a shambles, really. The last 2 draws, they've all been building confidence for a defence. And if we can't transfer that going forward, and especially beat Krasnodar, then there's just no point.
Would you start your full first team against them?
I don't think we necessarily need to, but we don't need to beat them, but I think we should, because we haven't had a pre-season. We've got so many new players. These in-game, real life games, are time for our players to gel, and I think we need to make the most of that as possible. So we need as many of our new signings in there. I think Ziyech needs to start as well, so he gets game time. And I think we should be fine. He did nothing. I can't even lie. He was poor, but that's that.
Werner and I don't want to jump in on them, but Werner and Havertz got well marshalled by Lindelof and Maguire as well. I mean, I was really impressed with Lindelof's display, and Thiago up the other end as well. As you said earlier on about Cavani, he didn't really have anything other than his first touch, but the one chance that he did have when Greenwood cut it back to him was well blocked by Thiago Silva. And clearly Thiago Silva was a good signing for Chelsea. Good signing for Man United, another Brazilian, with Alex Telles, and he wasn't even involved in the squad. Why was Telles not involved in the squad? It's a big question that a lot of people, brought up before the game, including myself, because I think Telles is a top left back. I think we've seen enough against PSG. It's only a little snippet, a little cameo. He was absolutely sensational. He dominated the left flank in that 5-back formation, and I'm surprised he didn't play. And again, he'll play for us against RB Leipzig in the midweek. What happened to Telles now? Why was he not involved, do you think?
I wonder what the issue was, because I feel like he's too good to leave off the bench. He must have picked up a little injury in training, or I don't know, maybe there's just illness or something. because I don't see why Ollie would only would start Luke Shaw and have no other fullback options on the bench apart from obviously Tuan Zebi, who can play everywhere in the midfield and defence, and then the fullback positions. But I think it has to have been an injury.
And you saw that video, that clip has gone viral of Bruno doing the little pointing to Shaw for the overlap. He doesn't make the run. Daz, from a Chelsea point of view, what did you think about like Luke Shaw and Wan-Bissaka as offensive? Are you scared of them, or do you just think they're not going to do anything?
Obviously, Wan-Bissaka's incredible defensively. I'm not very worried of him going forward. I don't think he's got that same attacking threat as other wing-backs do. Luke Shaw, I think he's average, to be honest. I think Telles is obviously better than him going forward. I'm not sure about Telles defensively. A lot of people say he's very attacking, a bit like Alonso. But I think Shaw did all right last night. I don't think he did much wrong. He did his job. But overall, I'm not very worried of Shaw at all.
It was good to see Bruno's pettiness, though, when Shaw didn't overlap. Then he just passed by him instead of to him, although he was in the better position.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I love Bruno. He does all these funny sort of little things. But yeah, as you say, look, Shaw isn't very threatening going forward. Whereas, if you see Alex Telles on the team sheet with that nice little man bun that he's got going on, with those vicious whipped crosses, I would be terrified as an opposition fan or player. Imagine Telles whipping those balls into Cavani. I think many of us have been dreaming about that for the last couple of days after PSG, and I'm certainly one of those who has been dreaming about it. And I'm not happy that Telles didn't start, but as we say, Shaw is limited going forward, and I just think that Telles has that attacking instinct. And I said it after the game immediately. One of the first things that I thought was, we've got no threat on the left flank when we're playing without Rashford as a left winger, which we were for much of the game. We need Alex Telles to start, because we haven't had a left back that can cross at Man United for the last 7 or so years, and now we finally got one. So let's make the most of him. Anyway, Man United against Leipzig. We talked about Chelsea in the Champions League. How are we doing against Leipzig?
Tough. It's so tough to call, because right now they're the form team in the Bundesliga. First, only one draw, rest wins, ahead of Bayern. So it will be a tough game. Although they've lost their best player in Werner, they've still got a solid defence. They're still a team with a lot of chemistry and a very good manager. So I feel like they might, and I don't want to say this, but they probably have better tactics than us. They're better set up. But I think it'll be a 1-1 draw.
1-1 draw. I mean, hopefully one thing that I thought, I was screaming, I was watching the game and I was thinking to myself, there's no quality on that pitch, and I think Solskjaer has to go with either one of Pogba or Van der Beek in the team, and I would personally put him next to Matic, because I think Matic, Van der Beek, Pogba, and Fernandes have all got much more quality than McFred. I think McFred is a good midfield base to use, but if you don't mind me calling them that, but again, they don't have that great quality that we can see with the likes of Pogba and Van der Beek, and even Matic himself is a very, very good on the ball, and Daz can tell you that from his time at Chelsea as well. He's very good at the ball. He's very good at bringing it out. He's very good at breaking up the play, like Fred is. Obviously, he's not quite as mobile, but I don't think he's played too many games this season. So again, I'd like to see Matic.
I think the most worrying thing about Leipzig is Julian Nagelsmann. I'd take him at United if Solskjaer ends up being sacked, which we'll get onto the Solskjaer and Lampard debate in a bit. But I think he's young and he's just so tactically aware. If you've watched the Leipzig teams, and although he was criticised a bit for playing the five at the back at times, you can see how he can interchange systems between the 5 and the 4. And even, I know the 5 and the 3 are sometimes considered the same thing, but 3 is more attacking. So the way he interchanges between formations is a manager that I'd like to see at United if Ollie doesn't work out.
I feel like there's a shortage of managers in the world who are excellent in-game tacticians, and I think Solskjaer's got a little bit of it in him. We saw against PSG the tactical switch to the diamond when he brought Telles off of Pogba, but yeah, as you say, Nagelsmann is probably one of the best in the world at managing his team during the course of the game, and I am scared of Leipzig. I imagine they'll probably adopt a 3-back formation or 5-back, whatever you want to call it, against Man United, as they have been this season. So we probably won't go with a diamond midfield, which I was suggesting before the game I'd like to see, and maybe the diamond probably wouldn't work against that. So it's going to be a very tough game, however you look at it. But at the end of the day, we just beat PSG, who, again, great team. So who knows what we can do in the Champions League. I was about to say we're at home as well, but that doesn't seem to be any sort of advantage to us, given that we've not won a single game at home in the Premier League this season. Speaking of winning in the Premier League, where do you guys see how Everton lost just now today? Who's going to win the league? How is it going to go? What's going to happen?
I think City. I feel like, although they're going through a tough patch right now, I feel they're just too strong across the board. Maybe the defence hasn't clicked yet, but we have to remember, I think Ake's been injured and Diaz is new. And me and you know, we wanted Diaz a couple of summers back. It'd have been a very good siding for at centre-back. But I feel like as the season goes on and we can see that Pep can build a team with chemistry. So I feel they'll just have too much strength, especially because Van Dijk picked up that injury against Everton.
Yeah, I agree. I think City are, I'd like to say, probably favourites. Liverpool have lost Van Dijk. We know how important he is. Everton just lost. We're a new team. We're gelling. United are somewhat new. They're not quite there yet, though. Neither are we. I think City have too much squad depth and they've got too many good players. And I think Pep will do it again, to be honest. I don't see any other team that can out-challenge them, really.
What about you, Isaac? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm just having a look. I'm just going to try and see who the favourites are to win the Premier League. I think, after Van Dijk's injury, Man City are the favourites, the bookmakers' favourites to win the league. That doesn't totally surprise me, to be honest, because I think, you look, as we say, they've got great quality in their team. They've got an excellent manager in Pep, and it's difficult to write them off. It's an open season. I think anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. Even Liverpool could do it again, and I'd hate to see that. Even Arsenal could do it, or Man United, or Chelsea. But I feel as though if one of us won that game yesterday and put out a strong performance, we'd have put a real good stake to saying, look, we can win the league because we've got a lot of quality. But none of us did win it, and maybe the manner of the 0-0 draw and just how boring and dire and lackluster and fundamentally there's a lack of quality in the game. I think that maybe shows that maybe we can't win the league, and we'll see what happens as the season develops. But it is open. I think it's anyone's title, and that's really encouraging. Are Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Frank Lampard good enough managers to win the league?
Talking about odds, Ollie and Lampard are in it's Scott Parker and Slaven Bilic, followed by Ollie and Lampard, and the odds to be the first manager to leave the post, but in this season. So, Daz, what do you think about Lampard? Any good?
I don't think Lampard's going to get sacked. We've given him a 3-year plan. He's starting his second year now. I don't see him being sacked before next season unless he has a stinker and finishes outside the top 4. I think we're building a really, really good team. Lampard's shown what he can do last season. He's had very good patches. He's also had very bad patches. But he's learning. He's only in his, 3rd year of management. He's going to learn as time goes on. I think he can do it. I want to back him because he's a club legend. I love him. I think he can do it. But fans just have to be patient and remember that over half of our squad is new and it will take time. It's a long-term project.
The question that I've been really interested about is if he doesn't make it, would you rather the decision comes sooner or later to get in the new manager?
I don't think it will be... I don't think it will be a case of sooner or later. Look at Klopp. It took him 4 or 5 years to build a team. I don't think it will be so apparent so soon. It's going to take long. There will be roadblocks in the way. We saw that last season. There's going to be problems, but at the end of the day, it's a long project. It will take time, but we've just got to back him. And hopefully he can, at the end, do well with us. But I do believe him, and I do back him the whole way.
But if he were to get sacked, who would you like as his replacement?
Oh, Nagelsmann. I think 90% of people would agree. He's incredible.
Nagelsmann is the manager at the moment, isn't he? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure he would probably leave Leipzig for a bigger club on paper, but to prize him away from Leipzig will be a difficult task. I'm fully behind Solskjaer, but again, as we said previously, he is the one you'd want to go for. I mean, you could look at Pochettino maybe, but he wouldn't go to Chelsea. I think he'd love to go to Man United, but I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if the board get him, to be honest. But I do think that Nagelsmann would probably be a better fit. With regards to that, Lampard, I don't know about him, to be honest, overall as a manager. He's lost to Solskjaer 3 times, as we've seen. He had beaten once and he's drawn once. That's a record that we've got between the two of them at the moment. But I think he's been giving a little bit of a pass by the media because he is Frank Lampard and because he's English, because the legend of England and legend of Chelsea. I think he's been, and he's young as well. I think he's been given a little bit of a, oh, you know what? Give him time. You know, he's a great manager. But really, I'm not overly impressed by Frank Lampard. I do think he had a solid year last year, but he didn't win a trophy like Solskjaer didn't, and he just spent 200 million in a window, and I think he's got to deliver. I think Chelsea, if they're going to be the ruthless club which they always seem to have been, they'll sack him if they don't win a trophy this season with the money he's had spent.
I'm not sure. I would expect us to win a trophy, and I'm sure the club would want as well. But you've got to remember, Klopp, look at Liverpool now. They're one of the best teams in the world. They took 5 years to build where they are. Yes, we've spent 200 million, but it's not going to click straight away. And I think most people know that. Like, it will take time.
Yeah, of course.
He had a great year last year. You can see what he's trying to do with the squad. He had great patches last year. I think if he keeps carrying on this sort of development, you've seen how our defence has improved recently. If we can keep that development going and finding the balance between defence and attack, I think we'll be fine. And I think that in a couple of years' time, we'll be probably league favourites.
I'm going to disagree with the Lampard and Klopp comparisons, though, because when Klopp came into Liverpool, he was already a world-class manager. He already,
That's true.
with Dortmund, he did so much, and we could see his tactics straight away. And I know you like to say, what are Ollie's tactics? But at the end of the day, I don't think Lampard has a proper set playing style that he uses week in, week out. We could see that you changed against us.
With that Klopp comparison, though, I would say that, yes, Lampard hasn't shown that he's got a set style, but I think nowadays it's not only like, oh, you've got to have one style and play it throughout the whole season. Every game will require a different style, big or small. We've seen Lampard can play 3 at the back, or 5 at the back, whatever you want to call it. Last season, it worked well. It didn't work well against the small teams, but I'm sure he's realised that now. We've used the 4-2-3-1, which did also work last season at times, but again, didn't against the bigger teams. It's all about finding that balance, and he's going to keep learning and eventually find out a set system. But he has said that he's new and that he wants to experiment and find what works best for him. But I think we'll just have to give him time and wait and see how it sort of turns out.
What do you think separates Ollie and Lampard then?
I mean, there's a lot of different things, to be honest. Ollie's been managing for 11 years, 10 years, 11 years. Lampard's only been 2. But then again, you could say that Ole's more, maybe more set as a manager, got more tactical knowledge than him. He's been in the job longer. He knows more about how to manage a team than Lampard does and what it takes. So there's a lot of differences, but it'll be interesting to see how they fare out at the end of the season, because at the end of the day, they are managing 2 completely different clubs.
I think Frank Lampard has been treated as though he's some sort of tactical messiah who knows it all, who's a great manager, who's come to Chelsea, revolutionised the club, when really he hasn't. And I don't want to bash Lampard for the sake of it, because I think he did a decent job last year, as I said previously. But he isn't some outstanding manager, and he is.
No, he's not.
As we say, he's pragmatic in that he changes his approach game by game, and Solskjaer can do that as well. Any top manager can do that as well. I'm not saying Solskjaer's a top manager by any means, but I just think that Solskjaer has got an ideology that he wants to play fast-flowing, counter-attacking football where he uses the wings, he gets wide players involved, he gets neat little interchanging passes in the box. And I do think people say, oh, Solskjaer's got no tactical setup, he's got no way of playing. He does. It's just sometimes he didn't have the personnel to do it, because we have had many points in Solskjaer's tenure where the players at Man United aren't good enough. We had Jesse Lingard and Andreas Pereira as our main number 10s in the most crucial position in our system for ages. So I think Solskjaer's done a better job than Lampard personally, and I think we've seen that with the league finishes. We haven't seen it quite by trophies yet, but you said about time earlier on. I don't think you've got time at Chelsea Football Club. Not with Roman Abramovich. He's ruthless. He wants to win. Chelsea have an unbelievable record of winning, and I completely agree with the way he does it. I just don't think that Lampard's going to have the time. I don't think again, I've got nothing against him, but I don't think he's going to have the time to develop and learn at Chelsea Football Club. Maybe he made the step too early. He certainly went in there at the right time with the transfer ban because he had an excuse. And I think all Lampard is, it's all about excuses, and he's had these excuses again and again, time and time over, and he's not won a trophy, and he's not done an outstanding job. He's done a good job at best for me.
I don't want to be pessimistic, but I feel like this is going to sound really, really pessimistic, but I feel like the race to sack Ollie and Lampard will be crucial for Manchester United and Chelsea's future development if they're not the man for the job, because it's whoever brings in that next manager, and I feel like there will be a lot of competition for these top managers, and whoever sacks first, United or Chelsea, will end up with a better manager, which will in the long term help the progression go faster, I guess. But Darian, as a rival fan, how would you feel if Ollie was sacked?
I don't rate Ole as much as other people do. I think that if he was to get sacked, I want him to stay because I don't think he's the right man for United. If he was to get sacked, I'd be interested who you'd get in. If you were to get someone like Nagelsmann, then I'd be worried because you've got a lot of good players and I'm sure he could do a lot with the team that you've got. I don't think Ole's going to get you to that level though, and so I would like to see him stay, just the rival. But yeah, if he was to get sacked, it would depend on who you'd bring in, really.
I don't think that I don't think that Solskjaer might not win a Premier League, but I do think that he's the right man to advance us and bring us to that next level. And I do think he can have a big game performance. And I do think he's the right man for the job at the moment. I do think he's the right man to take us forward to becoming a bigger and better team. And he's the right man to put us back on the Man United way. I do think that. And I think that, to be honest, if you disagree with that, I think, yeah, maybe you just want trophies now. But if we want to have a long-term successful dominance again, maybe Solskjaer's a man you put in place. I mean, I'm wearing a Wales shirt right now, right? And Wales, they had John Toshak who came in, and all he did was set up the system. He set up that we're going to have a 5 at the back. A little bit of credit to Gary Speed as well. We have a 5 at the back. We're going to play these players, this sort of system, and he set up what Wales are going to do. Chris Coleman comes in. He's got a perfect setup. He does really well in the Euros. He overperforms, gets to the semi-final with Wales, right? All you need a manager to set the work, set the team in motion, and then you bring someone in to finish it off. And I don't think Solskjaer is a man to finish it off. Maybe he is, but I haven't seen enough to suggest it. I haven't seen enough from him consistently to suggest that he will be. So maybe we do need someone in the future. But I do think he's the right man to bring us to the level where we can say, look, we're going to go and try and compete for some big trophies now.
One thing we have to remember, though, is football is a game of time. Like, you look at Arsenal, yeah, they're slowly fixing their defence. But by the time that defence is fixed, all the strikers are in the retirement home now.
Yeah.
So I feel like although Ollie may one day be the right man, do we want a one day will be the right man when we can go and get a top manager? Because let's not sugarcoat it. If you look at a lot of our players, they are very, very good players. And they shouldn't be underperforming as much as they do. So it's a hard one because obviously we've got that sentimental value, like Chelsea with Lampard to Ollie. Scored that winning goal in the Champions League final. Great servant to the club. But every week it looks like it's maybe time to get a new manager. I know PSG was a great performance and it showed what he can do, but then it doesn't help that the next weekend when there's a winnable game against out of form Chelsea, he goes and plays. I don't think that team was a team to win the game, personally. Especially when he also kind of disregarded what got him so much praise during the midweek against PSG. So I guess it shows that he's going to do what he wants rather than what's best to win at times. And I'm sure Ollie wants to win with Manchester United. But at times it doesn't really feel like it.
Maybe we're being a bit too negative on both Solskjaer and Lampard. Maybe we're thinking, maybe we're being too sentimental, too unsentimental. Maybe we're thinking, Man United and Chelsea have got to be winning trophies all the time, and we don't really appreciate that we've got a rebuilding task. But I don't know. Having said that,
how long can you rebuild for?
Yeah, as you say, it is clear that it's taking a while. And while Man United are still inconsistent, while Chelsea is still inconsistent, there will be big question marks over the manager. Even you look at the business, Solskjaer deserved more backing. He deserved Sancho. I think Lampard got backed. So that's the difference between the two managers. Lampard's at an advantage straight away. He got the players he wanted. Solskjaer didn't get his main number one target, who's been his number one target since he arrived at the club. So, it's going to be a difficult task for Solskjaer, much more difficult than I think Lampard. But as we say, maybe they're not the men to take us to that next level. But I do think you've got to back Solskjaer while he's here. And as I said earlier on, Solskjaer can be the man to bring us to the level where we can look at them going on and winning trophies. And you mentioned time, and I don't know how long it's going to be. I don't know how long it's going to take. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see, won't we? We don't really know exactly how it's going to happen. But
don't forget though, you do mention that Lampard has had the backing. Solskjaer also had that backing last season. He spent 200 million last summer. Then bought in Van der Beek for 40, and then this Traore, I don't know who he is, for another 40. So they've had this similar level of backing. So I think that criticism on Lampard is a bit harsh when Ole has had 200 million that he's been able to spend on the players he wants.
And that just shows.
I think you've also got to take that into consideration.
That just shows the difference in recruitment between United and Chelsea, though, with how much more efficient and effective you are. Because maybe we spend the same amount of money, but how many of those are your first choice? Most of them, if not all of them, right?
That is true, yeah.
And how many were our first choice this summer? Was Telles our first choice? No, it was Reguilon. He went to Spurs. Was Cavani our first choice? Do you think going into the summer, Edward was thinking Edinson Cavani, Manchester United's number 7 in the board meetings?
But I also think that last summer Ole spent 80 million on Maguire. It's not like it's his second choice or whatever. He clearly wanted Maguire. He got Wan-Bissaka for 50 million. He clearly wanted Wan-Bissaka. It's not like he hasn't been backed at all. I don't think you can forget that, because 200 million is a lot of money, and Lampard's got to prove that he can use those funds. He's bought the players. He's got to prove that he can use those players to actually win us something. But at the same time, Ole had that last season, and I'm not sure if he's shown enough, for me personally, to show that he can actually take you to winning trophies and win the league where you ultimately want to be.
On the other hand, though, Solskjaer inherited a worse squad than Lampard. I think the squad which Sarri had, which finished 3rd and won the Europa League. I mean, to be fair, he didn't have Hazard, but you still had
50% of our goals.
Yeah, that's true. You still had Kovacic, who was good. Kante, great player. Yeah. The young players you have in your academy are outstanding, and I think we've only really got. I mean, we look at Tuanzebe now, maybe, but we've only really got one who emerged, Greenwood, who you can look to Solskjaer and say, look, he's brought him in. But there's so many under Lampard.
Were you shocked that we didn't sign Sancho in the summer, Dari?
I didn't think you'd get Sancho, to be honest. There was always that little thing in my mind that what if they do, but 120 million on such a young winger, a young player, especially in these times, I don't think you were ever going to get him, to be honest. And I think that when you were rumoured with Dembele later on, I think that would have been more possible, but I don't think you would have got Sancho.
I feel the board looked at it the same way as you. We're not paying 120 million euros for such a young player, whereas they should have looked at, we're paying for a player who gives 30 plus goal contributions a season and will pay that money back within no time.
That's true. It's a big risk, but yeah.
I find it really difficult to see how we can sign Sancho going forward, but I feel like he still will be that number 1 target, although we have signed Ahmad and Pellistri. We've seen Pellistri's not really ready yet from that one youth game. You can see he's got the raw talent, but in terms of final product, he's not there yet. But let's hope he can quickly develop. But Sancho is a player that I hope we go in for again, but I don't see it being any more likely now than it was before, especially because coronavirus will still affect the market potentially even worse next summer. So
I mean, we've been told, haven't we? We were told by Portio, and we've seen online that Sancho will be our number one target still, and we still are after him. And we might have signed Cavani, but we didn't sign a right winger. We signed Diallo, but again, he's one for the future himself. Sancho would be one for the future and one for the now. But yeah, I do think we'll still try and sign him. I don't know whether we'll be successful in that or not, especially with Woodward at the head of negotiations, and Judge. But I guess whoever gets that money might be the manager that succeeds more. Quick to round it up. Who do you think is going to go first, Solskjaer or Lampard? And who's going to finish higher in the league from both of you?
Let's go first.
I think Solskjaer is going to get sacked first, and I back us to finish above you in the league.
I think neither this season, and Chelsea will finish higher.
I think Lampard and United, but there you go. You got every single possible outcome there, nearly. Anyway, thanks for joining us today. I think it's been a great podcast. Thanks for coming on, Daz. A real pleasure to have a guest on for the first time, other than obviously when we had Portio on. We're going to try and get some more of you guys on as well. Get some more United opinion, and we're getting an Arsenal fan on. I'm not quite sure who yet. We're going to get an Arsenal fan on previewing the Arsenal game on Saturday night. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed, whether you've been watching it on YouTube or Spotify. Make sure to follow if you're watching the Spotify, and make sure to subscribe, like, and share on YouTube. Thanks so much, guys. That's been us. See ya.
Bye.